Hey you're finally awake. I'm Neloth, and today I'm going to be showing you the best starting guide to the game of Skyrim, while also inserting some useful tips and advice that can help both beginners and experienced experts in the game. So with that being said, take up your moon sugar, drink up your skooma, and let us dive straight in. First off is race, and if no one has ever told you this before, let me be the first to tell you. Race does not matter in Skyrim. You can be an orc necromancer or a high elf barbarian and you will be fine. However, if you're a beginner who just wants an edge or you're a min-maxing freak, here's some recommendations. For a warrior character, I would recommend a Nord, an orc, a Redguard, or an Imperial. If you're going for a mage, I would recommend going with a high elf, a Breton, or a dark elf. And if you're going the more stealth assassin route, I would recommend going with either a Khajiit, wood elf, or Argonian. Now, while Helgen burns hotter than Natalie Dormer, you will be left with the decision of either escaping with Hadvar or Ralof. Most people will tell you Ralof is the best option, however both characters have their merits. Ralof is the fan favorite because the guards you encounter while escaping with him have very light armor that is very valuable that you can sell to vendors and make quite a bit of money very early. However, Hadvar is also a good option because once you escape Helgen, you will be able to befriend a blacksmith named Alvor who will allow you to take some of his armor and his ingots as well as giving you better prices when shopping with him. However, for this guide, I will be going with Ralof. Getting through Helgen is pretty simple. However, here are some things I would recommend getting before leaving Helgen. In the potion room, make sure to get as many ingredients as you can, including salt piles as well as elf ears and a few other ingredients that are on the walls. In the torture room, I would recommend taking every single thing that the mage has on him, including his clothes. Even if you're not going the mage route, it can be very useful, and I'll explain later in the video. Also, make sure to take all the lockpicks you can. They're going to be very plentiful in the world, but it doesn't hurt to have a few extras. After crossing the wooden bridge, instead of going through the cave system, make sure to take a left through the sewer grate as you will find a skeleton with a nice bit of gold and a potion. In the spider room, make sure to take all of the poison that the spiders drop because it could be useful to use or sell. Also make sure to take all of the spider eggs that are in the egg sacs as we could also use them to make potions later on in the video. When entering the bear cave, make sure to go up on this little ridge as there will be a potion of health that could be useful to sell or use later on. And lastly, instead of sneaking by the bear, I would highly recommend killing the bear, as the bear will yield a bear pelt as well as bear claws. The bear pelt can be useful for crafting and or selling, and the bear claws can be useful for alchemy later on. Once you leave Helgen, if you've never played the game before, I would strongly recommend going with either Ralof or Hadvar, whoever you escaped Helgen with. But if you have played this game before, I would recommend following this path that I'm going now down this little ridge, and you will find this bandit camp. While at the bandit camp, make sure to loot the treasure map from one of the corpses, a black mage's robe, as well as a skill book for one-handed. Once you're done ransacking the honest, hard-working bandits outside of Helgen, make sure to head due west, as if you follow this path, you will find some stairs leading up to a shrine of Talos. There you will find some dead pilgrims, but most importantly, you will find a dead Thalmor soldier who will have some enchanted Thalmor robes, as well as some random enchanted gear that we can use to disenchant later on. When you're finished desecrating the shrine, make sure to follow the path east as you will come across the 3 standing stones everyone knows and loves and will always come across. The standing stones are pretty simple. If you're going to go the warrior path, choose the warrior stone. If you're going to go the mage path, choose the mage stone. And if you're going down the thief and assassin route, choose the thief stone. Before leaving the 3 standing stones, keep in mind that there is a fishing tent close by that you can steal from. There's also a shack called Anis's Shack, as well as a mine called Embershard Mine that are nearby the 3 standing stones. We won't be visiting them yet, but keep them in mind because we will visit to them after we sell all of our loot that we got from Helgen. Continue the path east until you find the first village of Riverwood, but keep in mind while you're going down that path, make sure to collect as many ingredients as you can find as possible because we will be using them for potions, and you can either utilize those potions or you can sell them to make quite a bit of money in the early game. When you arrive at Helgen, the first thing you should probably do is sell off all of your armor to Alvor and all of your miscellaneous things you have collected to the Riverwood trader with Lucan, as well as also pick up the quest that Lucan will provide. We will get into that quest momentarily. Also, if you remember that treasure map that we collected from that bandit camp, you will find that the location of the treasure is actually right across the river in this hollowed out stump. Now, once you finish plundering like a pirate on the Sea of Ghosts, fast travel back to the 3 standing stones and make your way across the river as we will find a cabin called Anice's Cabin. I'll refrain from talking about Anice, however, inside of her cabin you will find a cellar door. If you lockpick the cellar door, you will find a undercroft which will have an alchemy lab as well as an enchanting table. This undercroft will be the perfect place for you to mash all of your ingredients you found together in the alchemy lab and take all of your enchanted gear and disenchant it. Some potions you make might be useful to you, however, most probably will not be useful to you, and you can either sell them back to Lucan or you can sell them in Whiterun when we get to that location later in the video. When exiting Anice's cabin, make sure to go down this path I'm showing you now under this ridge, because if you follow this ridge, you will find a dead animal carcass, and underneath it you will find a flawless emerald, which is valued at 750 gold, and given your level 1 and stuff like that, you'll probably sell it for around 200 to 300 gold, which is nothing to shy at whatsoever. Across the river from Anice's cabin will also be Embershard Mine. I would highly recommend going through this dungeon as the bandits that are located there are very low leveled, and it is a great beginner dungeon for both beginners and experienced players alike. The dungeon will also include quite a bit of gold and some gems that you can sell to merchants as well to make even more money. Once you strip that mine for all it's fucking got, consider returning back to Lucan and Alvor to sell all of your ill-gotten gains, and also pick up the quest that Lucan will provide that will take you to a dungeon called Bleak Falls Barrow. Before heading to Bleak Falls Barrow, I would recommend stopping by either Faendal or Sven, as they will provide a miscellaneous quest which will provide you with one of the gentlemen as a loyal follower. I would also recommend choosing Faendal because he can train you in archery if you wish to pursue that skill, and there is also an exploit involving Faendal, but I won't be discussing that in this video. Next, you'll want to head to Bleak Falls Barrow. It's a relatively simple dungeon, so I won't go too deep into it. However, I will reveal some secret plunder that you might not have noticed before. Before delving into the spider nest, if you actually go straight and break open the spider webs, you will actually find a chest full of randomized loot. When entering the main dungeon room, if you actually go behind the Word of Power, you will actually find a chest full of, again, randomized loot. After reading Dragon and killing a Draugr Overlord and taking his stone tablet and hopefully a sword to disenchant, if you go underneath this waterfall, you will find, I bet you can't guess what I'm about to say here, randomized loot. Once you leave the dungeon, if you actually look to your left and a little down, you'll find a potion of pickpocketing, which will be very useful for either using or selling. And then after that, I would recommend going right and finding this cave very close by called Brittle Shin Pass. In it, you'll find a necromancer, a couple skeletons, but most importantly, you will find an enchanting table, and you can disenchant all of the gear that you found in that dungeon, as well as the previous dungeon before. Also, while not relevant to the video, I just want to show off this petty soul gem in the dungeon that is the most pathetic thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Giving back the claw to Lucan will actually be very profitable, and you'll get around 400 gold to maybe more depending on your level. After that, I would recommend heading into Whiterun and making sure to go and tell the Jarl about the goddamn dragon attack. And that is where the guide, the starting guide for this video ends, and more of the tips and suggestions start to come in. Now, if I haven't stressed it enough, I would strongly recommend that you go for alchemy. Not maybe specialize in it, but make sure to collect ingredients and every once in a while just mash that shit together and sell it to the local alchemist, as you will make a remarkable amount of profit very early in the game, and enough to buy the first house in Whiterun, which is 5,000 gold. And you get that literally after talking to the Jarl a couple of times. I would also talk to all of the citizens in Whiterun, as many of them will give you very easy miscellaneous quests to complete because it's the starting city. People like Carlotta, Isolde, and Brenwyn can offer very easy quests that can be done in Whiterun and Whiterun alone. And other NPCs will offer quests that can easily be done right outside of Whiterun as well. Speaking of outside of Whiterun, some places that I would recommend clearing out so you could level up, test your skills, and just get a feel for the game is clear out dungeons like Silent Moon's Camp, Halted Stream Camp, Rederin's Retreat, White River Watch, and Valtheim Towers. In Halted Stream Camp, one of the dungeons I have previously mentioned, there will actually be something called a Transmutate spellbook. And if you take that spellbook and you learn it, you will be able to turn any iron into silver and any silver into gold. This will be a perfect way to make massive amounts of money if you're someone that really wants to go down that route of making tons of money. If you're going down the mage route, this will be especially useful. However, if you're going down a warrior path and you're not going to be investing much into magicka, you can still use this spellbook, although it'll be much slower. And all you're really going to need to do is just mine all the iron in Halted Stream Camp and a few other mines you might come across that have tons of iron, and you can easily cast a spell and turn it into gold, and then you can go to a forge and turn them into necklaces that you can enchant and or sell. Now, if you want to have a character that has a bit of a wide variety, maybe a warrior that has some magic, or a thief that has some magic, or a magic who has some more magic, I would recommend getting something called the Lover Stone. And the best way to get that is to hop on a carriage straight to Markarth, and if you go to Markarth and go a bit east and go through a place called Salvinius Farm and then head up the mountains and a bit east through the mountains, you will find a place called the Lover Stone. And what that will do is that will add plus 15% to all of your skills compared to the Mage Stone and Warrior Stone and Thief Stone, which adds plus 20% to those skills. This is a much better stone, especially for those that have a wide variety of skills that they want to train up. Now, when it comes to housing, there are 3 starting houses in the Whiterun area that I would recommend getting. The first one is Breeze Home, which costs 5,000 gold, 7,000 gold if you purchase all of the upgrades, and it will give you a very nice, small, quaint house that I'm pretty sure a lot of veteran players are very familiar with. It has a bed, but most importantly, it has an alchemy table and some storage. One of the houses added with the Anniversary Edition is the Tundra Homestead right outside of Whiterun to the east. It costs 7,500 gold, and it's a bit of an upgrade from Breeze Home. It has a farm outside, it has a workbench where you can upgrade your weapons and armor, it has a bee farm, but most importantly on the inside, it has an alchemy table, an enchanting table, and in the basement, it has a storage room which allows you to store ample armor and weapons, as well as Dragon Priest masks and some dragon claws. The second house added with the Anniversary Edition is Golden Hills Plantation to the far west of Whiterun, near Rorikstead and Gukar's Monument. You'll have to do a series of small but very easy to do quests, and in it you'll unlock a free house as well as a farm which will give you passive income, making this a very, very good starter house, although I do admit the amount of gold you make is a bit game-breaking, so I would save this for probably level 16 to 20, probably even higher of a level, because the amount of money you will make is insane. I won't go too deep into Golden Hills Plantation, but if you want, I could make a separate video based on it. Now, if you're someone who's into having followers with you tagging along on your journeys, here are a few that are pretty good for the beginning of the game. Thaindal is obviously a pretty good choice. However, there's also Uthgerd the Unbroken, who is a very powerful follower in the early game that can be unlocked very easily by just beating her in a fist fight. And usually the brawls in this game are pretty easy. As long as you just keep hitting them faster than they hit you, you're pretty much golden. And there is a mercenary in the Drunken Huntsman named Janasa, or Janasa, however you say her name, that is also worthy to be a follower. However, she costs 500 gold in order to unlock her as a companion, so if you have money to spare, I guess it wouldn't hurt. Now, some tips that you don't necessarily have to follow, but I would recommend. You don't have to listen to me, of course, I am not your dad. But when it comes to thieving in this game, I would recommend not really stealing many things. Obviously, gold and enchanted items are an exception, but I would wait until you join the Thieves Guild before stealing things, as before then, you won't be able to sell those stolen goods, but when you join the Thieves Guild, you will be able to. And the Thieves Guild are located in Riften. Speaking of guilds, I would also recommend joining the Companions in Whiterun at the first moment possible, because they are a very good guild to join first thing, and they also give you access to, spoiler alert, the Werewolf perk, which will allow you to become a werewolf if you're ever in a tight spot, and it also allows you to become fully resistant to disease, which isn't necessarily important, but it's a nice quality of life perk that is nice to have throughout the entirety of the game. Additionally, all of the gameplay in this video was made with a character that did not exceed level 10, just to show you that everything that I did in this video can easily be done straight from the beginning of the game. And that is officially the end of the video, the Skyrim starting guide of 2023. And I really do hope that you enjoyed this video. There were some things I left out, mainly exploits and other things, just because this is really just a starting guide. This isn't about exploiting the game, or this isn't about all the way into endgame, because I also want you to just explore the game for yourself and just give you an optimal experience so you can maximize your potential later on in the game. So with that being said, I really hope you like this video and you like that subscribe button, and I will see you whenever the fuck I decide to upload again. House Telvanni be with you, and House Telvanni wishes you a happy new year.
Please, O hero of Skyrim,